at your Pontiac dealer, because at Pontiac, we build.
Earlier this year, when the Grand National stock cars were here, their complaint, we have a car smoking going through turn number 3. Now the smoke lets off. It looked like Scott Brayton, a little bit of smoke coming from this youngster's car, a guy who's qualified in 12th position, one of his finest efforts of the year, commenting about the Grand National stock cars earlier. Their problem was one of the track being a little slippery because of the sealer on the racetrack. For the Indy cars, it's a little rough. The drivers say they've softened up the suspension. They're ready to go.
Bobby Rahal, the pole sitter, pulls well ahead of the pack now, and because he really jumped out to too much of a lead, they're not going to display the green flag this time. The driver's holding up their hands, signaling that we'll go one more time before we get the green. Looks like Bobby was out there quite a bit before they approached the place where the green flag normally drops.
Gordy, in a situation like that, you're actually looking at the pole setter, who has normally the responsibility to determine the speed of the start. And the outside guy, the guy bringing around the outside row, sort of his job to keep up. What happened in that instance as you saw it?
Well, it looked like Rahal just got a jump all of a sudden out of him, and I was glad to see him not drop the flag because he was really too far out in front. The rest of them were pretty well lined up, but Rahal was pretty well out in front. So I was glad to see him not drop the green flag.
Now, this is an interesting front row. Bobby Rahal, a newcomer to this type of racing a year ago, and Johnny Rutherford, who has been in and out of the division because he's had a couple of crashes that have injured him. And, you know, a year or two ago, you would not have been surprised to see Johnny Rutherford on the front row, but here in the latter stages of the 1983 season, a front row that 2 years ago you wouldn't even dreamed of.
Well, yes, you know, he's with the Patrick Racing team, the same as I am, and we've had a rough time of it this year. There's no question about that. We've had a lot of crashes and a lot of misfortunes, but I think they're getting things together now. The last race, Danny and Gaius finished 5th, so I think they're getting things together again.
All right, the field moves out of turn number 4 once again, and hoping for a green flag this time. They come down in much better order this time, and Nick Finoro, the official starter for Championship Auto Racing Teams, displays the green flag, and the Detroit News Grand Prix is underway. 25 cars. Dick Simon did get out on the racetrack before the green flag dropped, so a full field of 25 Indy cars heading for turn number 2, being led down the backstretch by Bobby Rahal. Here is our shot as the cars come off of the 18-degree banking onto the relatively flat backstretch, where speeds can exceed 210 miles an hour. Now Bobby Rahal sets that car in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Speeds here somewhere around 206 or 207 miles an hour, and off the 4th turn they come. To Mario Andretti, and in 4th place is Tom Sneva.
The speeds at Michigan International Speedway. If you've been listening to what happens at Indianapolis, of course, you might say 200 miles per hour, ho-hum, but at Michigan International Speedway, you're absolutely right on the ragged edge all the way around. You're in a corner a lot of the time here at Michigan. It's not exactly an oval. It is a tri-oval, similar to Daytona and Talladega. There are 4 corners, but there's also a 5th turn, a kink right in the middle of the front straightaway. And Gordy, I'll tell you, the G-forces really do tug on you, don't they?
Well, yes, they do, especially in a long race like the 500 miles. And it'll be tough here, too, because the guys are running only 200 miles and they're running flat out. You can tell the way the front runners are running right now that, you know, they're going for the whole thing. They're not backing off or waiting for the end of like a 500-mile race. They've got to go out there and go for it.
Al Unser Jr. started this race in 23rd position, and it was our interest, of course, to see how well he performed at the drop of the green flag. And our sponsors tell us that Al Unser Jr. passed 9 cars in lap number 1 and is making his way toward the front of this field. They combine to complete lap number 3. Still, Bobby Rahal showing the way. Johnny Rutherford running in 2nd position. Good battle for 3rd between Tom Sneva and Mario Andretti. Jr., the driver of car number 17. That, of course, is the Coors Light Silver Bullet. And Eagle Cosworth moving up fast in the field.
Those 2 white cars you see on your screen, I believe it's Kevin Cogan. And Kevin was racing with Teo Fabi. No, it's not Kevin. It is Tom Sneva moving to the inside of Johnny Rutherford, followed by Mario Andretti. Cogan and Teo Fabi were side by side a little earlier. You caught that on our shot coming out of turn number 4. Again, that is Sneva, followed closely by Mario Andretti. And you can see when you get out of the throttle, even though you had momentum going in, as Sneva tried to get to the inside of Rutherford. Once you just got out of that throttle, even the slightest little bit, you lose a lot of ground on this racetrack because you're going so fast all the way around at every point on the speedway.
Yes, that's very much true, Larry. You got a heck of a race going on here for second spot between Rutherford, Sneva, and Andretti. Andretti's really moved up fast here. He was right up there side of him. Sneva's moving up side of Rutherford right now, going into number 1.
Into turn number 1, and Tom Sneva gets his nose in front of Johnny Rutherford and makes the pass going into turn number 1. So Tom Sneva now moves into second place. Mario Andretti also goes to the low side of Johnny Rutherford and takes over third. So in just the quick flash of an eye, Johnny Rutherford drops from second to fourth.
Yes, Johnny got a little bit high there between 1 and 2, and it allowed Mario to slip right under him at the same time that Tom did.
There again is second, third, and fourth. And Bob, here's a replay of the start of the race. Watch Al Unser Jr., the red nose in that white car. Look at the jump he gets coming through the trial. He goes to the high side of Roger Mears, threads the needle, goes right between a couple of other competitors. Looks like Chris Neifel slowing a little bit in the middle of the corner, but look at the jump that Al Unser Jr. gets. He's passed 3 cars in 1 corner, make it 5 cars in 2 corners, setting up going down the backstretch, and he made up a lot of ground very early on.
So obviously Al Unser Jr. has the engine problems that he suffered yesterday in practice ironed out, and he is moving up quickly. There you can see him going around Howdy Holmes in turn number 3 on lap number 1 and continuing to thread his way through the traffic and up toward the front of the pack. Al Unser Jr. back live now to the activity on the racetrack. Tom Sneva has moved into second position. Running third is Mario Andretti, and back to fourth is Johnny Rutherford. This is only Johnny Rutherford's third race of the year. He competed in the very first race at Atlanta, then was injured, of course, at Indianapolis. He competed in Pocono, where he had another misfortune, and a tire came off. The car crashed. He is in his third race of the year, qualified well in second position. Johnny Rutherford looking for somewhat of a comeback here this weekend. Chris Neifel, car number 72, the CFI Primus, brings his car into the pit area, as obviously something has gone wrong. We only anticipate 2 normal pit stops during this 100-lap, 200-mile race. Our coverage will resume in just a moment with Bobby Rahal leading.
The car owner of Al Unser Jr.'s Eagle. You got off to a great start, but now I see he's falling back a couple of spots.
Yeah, the car's pushing a little bit. We need our next pit stop, we're going to try to come in and adjust the front wing because it's pushing a little bit. But he got off to a good start. We got the car sorted out last night, so hopefully, we can get things worked out.
And this being a real sprint car race, you're really trying to play the yellow lights for that first pit stop.
I didn't hear you.
You're going to try to play the yellow for that first pit stop.
Oh yeah, everybody will do that. So it's just see what happens.
As always, the cockpit is where the strategy is coming from.
That's right. He's the one doing the job.
Thank you, Rick.
Tough luck for Johnny Rutherford, who started second, fell back to fourth, and he had a problem last lap as the car was in turn number 1. We'll take a look at what happened while we were away for commercial. Johnny Rutherford, a big puff of smoke from that engine going into turn 1.
Well, remember that Johnny had just been passed by Tom Sneva and Mario Andretti. Don't know if that was one of the things that contributed to his being passed by those two, but you see Johnny looking to get down out of the racing groove and out of the way. He ducked down to the low side of the racetrack going down the backstretch. And Gordy, when he came around, it appeared as though he was coming in under power. He did not look like he was coasting at all.
Yes, he definitely looked like he was under power, but you could see the puff of smoke was pretty bad when he went into the number 1 corner, and evidently it's something he knew because he did slow down and get out of the groove. So it's just not just an ordinary oil leak.
Good race for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th position involved in that. Teo Fabi, also in there is Al Unser Sr. and Mike Mosley. They go down the backstretch, and Teo Fabi has managed to get around both of those cars and move into 4th place.
Well, Teo got a nice draft of wind coming down through the trioval, went to the inside of both, and look at the distance he has opened up. I was about to comment, Bob, that this is the first time this year that I could remember seeing Teo actually back up a little bit. In the early stages of the race, he had started in 3rd position and had dropped back to about 6th or so. But boy, he's really picked up the steam in the last couple of laps here. Look at the tight grouping of cars going through the trial, but going into the #1 corner.
That's the race for 5th position. Involved Rick Mears, Al Unser Sr., also Kevin Cogan, and Mike Mosley. They begin to go around some of the slower cars as they go down the backstretch. Once again, we remind you that time permitting, we will have live coverage of the Super B race from here at Michigan, which immediately follows this race. We mentioned to you earlier that we had some rain here earlier this morning in Michigan, and there is still a haze hanging over this 2-mile racetrack, and visibility is not all that great at this point.
That was Roger Mears, the white car that you see on the tail of that tandem. Kevin Cogan there moving to the inside of Mike Mosley as this battle royale continues. That was not one of those front runners, the cream-colored car that was drifting out of your picture. Again, Roger Mears, who has already been into the pits once. Incidentally, Chris Neifel also pitted early, and that car is being pushed behind the pit wall. So those are two of the early dropouts here in the race today.
We understand that Chris Neifel has dropped out of the race due to electrical problems, and the black flag is being displayed to car number 11, driven by Bill Alsop, because of a broken nose cone. So Bill will have to come in for consultation. Johnny Rutherford, meanwhile, has pulled back out onto the racetrack as we continue to watch this battle for 5th position.
But he's still smoking, Bob. You can see him on the apron down there, and he was still smoking. I don't know if it's oil that was left on the car from before or what, but he's surely not going very fast going through 1 and 2 on the apron. So it looks like he's definitely still got a problem.
Kevin Cogan trying to set up the points leader. Al Unser Sr. down the backstretch, pulls out of the draft, ducks down low, going into the 18-degree, banking into turn number 3, and Cogan picks up a position, but it might be temporary. You never know how things go on a big high-bank super speedway. Sometimes you get that pass or you get the lead, but it only lasts for a half a lap or maybe one more lap. If you can stay in the draft, you can always catch him.
And that is Mike Mosley also doing battle there with Al Unser Sr. as Teo Fabi and Rick Mears, who were running in this group, have now pulled on ahead, and it's basically a 3-car battle here. There is Johnny Rutherford still running very slowly on the racetrack over in turn number 4, and it looks like that he may come back into the pit area once again. Let's go to Gary Lee in the pit area.
Jim McGee, the team manager in the Johnny Rutherford stable. You got off to a good start. What's the problem now?
Well, it looks like we've developed some kind of a water leak, a radiator or something. Maybe got a rock through the radiator, but it's pouring water out the left side of the car, so we're going to have to bring it in, and that's about it.
Terminal.
What's that?
It's terminal.
Well, we could fix it, but we're about 8 laps down now, and there's no way we can win it, so we just think we'll just park it.
Look for Johnny Rutherford back in the pits momentarily.
And Johnny Rutherford has indeed pulled behind the wall, so that makes him an early retiree from the Detroit News Grand Prix here at Michigan International Speedway. We've completed 19 laps, and the average speed so far with all green, 196.18 miles an hour. Bobby Rahal continues to lead, Tom Sneva second, Andretti third, and Mears fourth. The interval between himself and second-running Tom Sneva has been closing in the last few laps. The big story right now, though, more misfortune for Johnny Rutherford, who has dropped out of the competition early.
Johnny, it's been a most trying season, but you put the new Wildcat in the front row. You got off to a good start today, but you have to be terribly disappointed right now.
Well, we really are, you know, but then it's kind of been like this all season, so I know how to handle it by now, and it's not fun. The car was feeling good, but evidently developed a water leak of some type, and was spraying out while I was running. The front end started pushing pretty bad on the car, and we were trying to jack with that and make it right, but it just wasn't our day.
When things are going well, you develop your confidence, a certain rhythm. When things are going poorly, as they have this season, do you kind of get in the car and say, well, JR, what's going to happen to us today?
Well, I guess to a degree, deep down inside you do. You try to keep your confidence level up, but, you know, these things happen. And it's a brand new race car, and there are a lot of things that can happen to a new car, and we've discovered one today, I'm afraid, and that's just the way it goes.
Out early, but still with a smile on your face. Thank you, John.
Well, I've got to keep my spirits up. I want to say hi to all my family in Fort Worth and everybody, and we'll be at the next one ready to go.
Thank you, John.
All right, and on the racetrack, battle between Teo Fabi in 5th place and Kevin Cogan in 6th as the cars head into turn number 3. Teo Fabi, the winner of our most recent one of the races we did earlier this year. He has won twice on the CART PPG IndyCar World Series Trail 4 this year. In Teo Fabi this afternoon started in third position at 202.640 miles an hour. But Kevin Cogan, who started this race seventh, is giving him a battle.
And remember how fast Kevin was here a year ago. He led this race in the early stages, and we saw Kevin a number of times in the 1982 season show his ability to go fast, and also recall the slight tweaking in the strategy for the Forsyth Skoal Bandit team, that green and white number 33 that Teo Fabi shared with us the last time we covered the Indianapolis cars a week ago from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Ohio, saying that they're going to concentrate just a little more on the championship than they had early on in the season. They didn't really think they would have this close of a shot at it when the year began, but things have been going so well. The performance has been so great from the team and Teo combined that they're really thinking championship now, and I think we're seeing a little bit of evidence of that. Teo Fabi has shown the ability to be as fast, or maybe faster is the correct word, than any car on the racetrack most every race this year. But right now he's running a comfortable position. And Gordy, you know, it's a little similar to where he was last week in Mid-Ohio when you said, I like the race he's running.
Yes, it was. At Mid-Ohio, he was running a real steady, comfortable race. I felt that he could have been running up front a little further than he was, and he might be doing exactly the same thing today.
And here is Al Unser Jr., who apparently is still having his problems, although we may be nearing the time when we see possibly our first series of pit stops. At any rate, they are changing the rubber on the right side of the car and filling the car with fuel. Al Unser Jr. has been in the pits now for 17 seconds, and away he goes. So a 17.3 second stop.
About 200 miles, there'll be 2 stops for everybody, a minimum of 2. The normal stops between laps 35 and 40. Now, because of the problems they were having with this race car, it is possible that this was definitely one of their planned stops. They decided to take that first one early, maybe make the car go faster, and hope that they can stretch that second pit stop or their third load of fuel right up to the very end and finish with just 2 stops.
I think maybe that's what they were doing, Larry, because he wasn't, you know, the owner was on just a minute ago and said they weren't handling him well, and I think they come in for a tire change, figuring that they could change the stagger on the car and get him handled a little bit better, hoping for a yellow, and then this wouldn't cost him anything.
We continue to watch this battle for 5th and 6th position, Teo Fabi and Kevin Cogan. We have been mentioning about the constant speeds here at Michigan International Raceway, and Larry talked with Kevin about that.
What about the constant speeds? You're at a high speed at all points in this racetrack all the way around, and that's not something really that you cut your racing teeth on, something you had to get used to after you came here.
Well, that's true. Little by little, I think I feel a little bit better every time I do it. It's something that kind of grows on you. That's why a lot of the veterans are so good still on the ovals and not quite as good on the road races. I think that it's something that you can retain. You know, it's something you acquire and retain.
Kevin Cogan from Redondo Beach, California, running in 6th position at this point with 31 laps completed. And now Kevin Cogan is dropping low on the racetrack in turn number 4 and making a pit stop. We have been told that his crew has complained, or he has complained to the crew of pushing the car. I'm sure they'll be trying to adjust that situation while they change the tires, possibly, and fuel the car here on this pit stop.
People have ducked into the pits, and they're coming in a little earlier than we expected. But again, depending upon the mileage they're getting, they can afford to stop. Matter of fact, a lot of people, including our race leader, Bobby Rahal, followed by Tom Sneva, choose to come in the pit. They're obviously betting they're getting enough fuel that they can stop early on the second stop and still finish.
So 1st and 2nd position in the pits. This is our leader, Bobby Rahal. And on the bottom of your screen, Tom Sneva, who is running in 2nd position in that Texaco Star. Crews working feverishly on their respective machines, trying to get them out first. Tom Sneva has pitted to the south of Bobby Rahal, so he is going to win the battle out of the pit area. In fact, Bobby Rahal a little bit slow in getting out. Now he's beginning to move away from the pits, but he's still very slow, and this is going to give Tom Sneva quite an advantage as they get back on the racetrack.
Yes, it is, Bob. Tom's got a big jump on him now, way big jump. Rahal was real slow in getting out. He looked like he almost killed the engine. They kept him going, but he's going to be almost a quarter of a lap behind Tom Sneva now.
So here's the leader as of now, Mario Andretti, car number 3. However, he has not made a pit stop. We anticipate his doing so very, very shortly. We're already a third of the way through this race. As we have indicated to you, it's going to be pretty much of a sprint race. That is all out. No real strategy involved in this race. It's go flat out for the entire 200 miles and hope that you're up front when the checkered flag falls.
During this flurry of pit stops, I noticed Mike Mosley coasted in, and Gordy espied somebody else limping around turn number 4.
I think it's Pancho harder, just coasting real slow and forward. But I don't believe there's going to be a yellow because he's going to make it to the end of pit lane.
So it could be a situation where Pancho ran out of fuel, the car moving very slowly. Meanwhile, several of the other cars come into the pit area, including Teo Fabi and Howdy Holmes. Also in the pit area is Bill Alsop in car number 11. Here is Teo Fabi, who is running in second position. Let's go to the pit area and Gary Lee.
The problem with Teo's position was not that of a conservative run. Barry Green, the team manager, said the Skull Bandit was pushing, so they're changing the stagger on this pit stop. They've changed the outside rubber to the left rear, topped off the fuel, and Teo is underway.
Pretty good pit stop for Teo Fabi. Meanwhile, here is the driver who is leading the race, Mario Andretti, who is in for his first of two pit stops in this 200-mile event.
Gordy, the only guy who went 70 miles, which would mean 3 times 70 is 210, plenty enough to go 2 pit stops. Everybody else came in at about 60 miles. That means it might be tough.
Well, yes, I think Mario's been getting pretty good fuel mileage all year, it seems like, because it seems like he always has been, the races that I've watched anyway lately, the last 4 or 5, always has been the last one to stop on the fuel stop. So he's been getting better fuel mileage than the rest of them. There's no question about it.
Mario Andretti rolls back onto the racetrack after a 17-second pit stop. We've seen all of the leaders come in for their first series of pit stops. So now we'll go back to racing and resume our coverage from Michigan International Speedway for the first time in our event. The reason is because of a spin up in turn number 3 involving Josele Garza. There is the yellow light that's being displayed. And here's the situation. If he did not touch the wall up there in 3, he came very, very close.
I'll say he came close. Gordy,
it certainly looked like it. I thought he brushed it, not hard. You knew he didn't hit it hard, but I thought he brushed it, but evidently he didn't. They got him back in the pits, and they're changing tires on him now because I'm certainly that they're really flat spotted, and he wouldn't last long that way.
You might also tell the fans at home what they're doing to Josele. They're not necessarily cooling him off, are they?
No, he's getting some menthol fumes in the cockpit of the car. They see him holding his hands over his eyes right now. It gets so bad sometimes that you can hardly breathe, that you just feel that you got to get out of the cockpit of the car. The wind is blowing the wrong way, and it blows the fumes right into the driver in the car.
Now here's an interesting situation, Gordy. The pace car is out on the track, and we almost had a pileup down at the entrance to the pit area as the pace car was going very slowly, and some of the cars got on the brakes real hard to prevent themselves from passing the pace car. And now we see the driver of the pace car waving the other drivers by.
Yeah, he definitely did motion them to go by, and the field is now filing by one at a time, cautiously going around the pace car, because they are well aware of the fact that once the pace car gets out on the speedway, that's the boss, and they're not allowed to pass that vehicle unless so signaled. You can see it vividly there. That's starting with the race leader, and I guess we're still showing Tom Sneva and Mario as the 2 leaders, at least Mario, for sure. Well, now we're showing Mario in 4th position. He was waved by the pace car.
Tom Sneva is your leader, and that's what the pace car is doing. They're passing everybody by until they catch up with Tom Sneva.
There we go.
All right, well, we have heard that perhaps Tom Sneva may be experiencing a brake problem, and there are some of the crews saying that Tom Sneva may be dropping some fluid out there on the racetrack, so we will be continuing to watch that situation as it develops.
Well, again, the reason for this caution flag was for a spin by Josele Garza between turns 3 and 4. We do not believe he touched the wall.
All right, we are under the yellow light, and we are on the radio once again with Tom Sneva, as Sneva is right behind the pace car now, shown as the leader of this race. Tom, any problems out there at this point? We understand that you may be having a brake problem with the car.
Yeah, I don't have the brakes I need out here. You know, fortunately at the track you don't use brakes at speed, but you know, I don't have much of a pedal, so it's a little apprehensive if something happens. But there's a little bit there. Other than that, the car is working fine and running good, so we'll just see what happens here.
Could that brake problem develop into something that would keep you from winning this race?
Oh, very possible. You know, I don't know for sure what it is, but it's very possible it could affect the outcome of this race.
All right, now we have heard from some of the other crews that there might be some smoke or some liquid falling from the rear of your race car. Is there any indication of that in the cockpit with you?
No, me and my rubber ducky are both dry.
All right, Tom, we'll continue to watch your progress out there.
Boy, he's really uptight, isn't he?
Okay, Mark, we need to look at this thing when it comes by, make sure everything's all right on this race car.
There's some conversation between Tom Sneva and his crew chief, Mark Bridges. telling Mark that they will definitely want to take a look at that situation as Tom comes around next time. So in the lead is Tom Sneva, running in second position. Car number 1, Rick Mears. In third place, number 2, Bobby Rahal. The action of the Detroit News Grand Prix 200 from Michigan Internationals Raceway. Now, while we were away, Tom Sneva was black flag, did come in for some consultation, and there may be some problem with that car. He is at the tail of the field. We'll be watching him move up as the green flag falls once again here at Michigan. As they go into turn number 1, it is Mike Mosley doing battle with Rick Mears here in turn number 2, and the black flag once again is being displayed to Tom Sneva as he comes by the cross the start-finish line, so he will have to make another pit stop.
Well, Bobby stopped under the yellow, and he was being closely observed by kart officials all the way around the racetrack, and Tom himself was running a little gingerly down the backstretch. He made no attempt to pass anybody, so he was giving everybody, including his own crew and the kart officials, an opportunity to kind of inspect that race car, and apparently they have spied something else, and the man who looked like he was going to be the one to beat today is going to be hauled back into the pits for another inspection.
All right, now Mike Mosley, who is in the middle of your screen, is a lap down. He is not on the lead lap. The leader of this race is Rick Mears. Second place is Bobby Rahal. Third place is car number 3, driven by Mario Andretti. And in fourth is Kevin Cogan in car number 6. That's the way they stack up as they race down the backstretch into turns number 3 and 4. Here comes the leader, Rick Mears, off of turn number 4, about to complete lap number 44. The average speed of the race just a little over 180 miles an hour, slowed because of the yellow caused by a spin involving Jose Legarza. Tom Sneva has entered the pits once again, and it looks like that they want desperately to get him back into the race, but there looks like to be some question as to whether he will be able to. There's a close shot of Tom Sneva as he waits patiently in that Texaco Star March. Tom was the leader of this race until something happened at the rear end of the car that caused him to lose some fluid.
He has lost at least one lap. He's rolling out of the pits right now. He's drag stripping out of the pits. Tom getting a little sideways. He hears the field coming around. He wants to avoid losing the second lap, but you're going to see them on the right side of the screen. Here they come, and there they go. There goes the leader, Rick Mears, and now Sneva is down 2 laps. That's unofficial, but we think he lost 2 laps while he was sitting in the pits.
Well, Gordy, you mentioned that brakes here aren't all that important except during pit stops.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. Here, if the car's handling well, the only place you really need a brakes on the racetrack out here is if somebody spins in front of you or you got an accident or something, then you need them, and you need them coming in for your pit stop. But as far as actually out there running them, it's a lot different than like if you were Phoenix or Milwaukee, you'd have to have a lot of brakes. You couldn't run without them. And
it looks like Bobby Rahal in second position is moving up quickly on Rick Mears, the leader of our race. The cars go into turn number 1. Rick Mears with about a half-second lead, and Rick Mears has about a 5.5-second lead on third place, Mario Andretti. Down the backstretch they go. First and second position, Rick Mears and Bobby Rahal.
Now, who would be running on the racetrack directly in front of Mario? The last time by, Mario Andretti was pointing to Nick Finoro, the kart flagman.
That's Tom Sneva again,
running directly in front of Mario.
Yeah, so he's definitely got a leaking problem, oil problem or something. You can see it when he goes by here, and it looks like something that they're not going to be able to solve.
And Nick Finoro reaches for the black flag once again, and Sneva receives the black flag once again. So Tom Sneva continuing to have his problems out there, and he'll be coming in again for a pit stop. Leader continues to be Rick Mears. Second place is Bobby Rahal. Third, Mario Andretti. Running in fourth place, Kevin Cogan. Fifth is Teo Fabi. In sixth position is Al Unser Sr. Seventh place, car number 12, and of course driven by John Paul Jr., the winner of the 500 here. He is a lap down, so we have 6 cars on the lead lap at this point. 48 laps completed, and we're almost to the halfway point as Tom Sneva comes into the pits once again as we continue to watch the leader, Rick Mears.
And before these caution flags, Gordy, you know, the average speed was well above 190 miles an hour. And I'm going through the record book here, and I see that the record for 200 miles is held by some guy by the name of Gordon Johncock. You remember that race in 1976?
Yeah, that's when we were really running quick and had a lot of horsepower.
Tom Sneva is back in. Actually, he left before he was given permission by a kart official, so they black flagged him. They're making the most of this stop. They're wanting to change right side side rubber as well as the left front. They're topping off the fuel in this 40-gallon alcohol fuel cell. Tom is frantically pointing to the left front, talking now to a kart official. He came sliding in. He locked up the brakes, slid actually past the point where he normally would stop. So again, there is a braking problem in car number 5. A very slow pit stop. They're checking out the rubber on the right side. The car is still up on the jacks, and now his teammate Kevin Cogan comes in. The crew was not ready, and Kevin shuts off the Cosworth. They attach the fuel hose, but apparently the day is over for Kevin Cogan. This was an unplanned, unscheduled pit stop for Cogan in car number 6. He came in, shut off the Cosworth, and right now he's talking with a crew member. The crew member is helping him to unbuckle, and Kevin Cogan is climbing out of the car. We have a fire. We have a fire on board Tom Sneva's car. We can see the flames. That would mean it's oil because the alcohol would burn without the flame. They quickly douse it with